This philosophy video is going to be pretty fucking doom and gloom, so I would lock in. This is going to be a lot of pessimism. We're going to be talking about, my worries for the future generations. If you saw the title of the video and clicked on it, you're probably ready, but if you expected this to be something that brightens your mood, I would probably click off. If you're ready for me to ramble and maybe eat a bag of Doritos while you listen to me talk about how I think society is going to suck in 50 years, then lock in. Off rip, I want to say, when I say my worry for future generations, I don't mean like Gen Z, Gen Alpha. I mean the generation that is after Gen Alpha, like Gen Z's kids that are no longer in Gen Alpha's generation. Like people born 20 years from now is the generation that I'm worried for. And I'm going to be talking about a lot of things that you currently see within Gen Z, Gen Alpha, and just society as a whole as, why I'm worried for the generation after them. First is social isolation. You probably noticed this more now than ever, but the majority of social interaction people have is online now rather than in person. Obviously, it depends on the individual, and, you might have an in-person job where you constantly interact with people, or maybe you're still in school where you're constantly interacting with people, but outside of forced interaction, the, choice-based interaction that people have day to day is generally online. And I don't think that it's bad to be introverted. I don't think it's bad to have social interaction online. I think it could be good in many ways, but I perceive it similar to fast food where, having it once or twice isn't bad, but being able to, interact in person is, the vegetables of social interaction. It's the fiber. It's the stuff that makes you flow and survive. If all you do is talk to people online, I think things start to take a turn for the worse. Part of the problem is there's no real second area hangouts that people go to anymore. Nobody really hangs out at parks or places that are free to go and mingle with people. The only real second place hangouts or type B hangouts that people go to, there's different names for it. It is like bars, if you're an adult, you go to a bar, coffee shop, stuff like that. But even then, you're really only interacting with people and it's very rare that you're actually talking to people that are new. The majority of dating and new couples are found online. The majority of first dates are found through Hinge, Tinder, Grindr, whatever you're using, rather than actually naturally meeting people in person. And I think these platforms and dating websites and other things provide, good in a sense, but also limit people's capability to just interact. And that makes just all of social interaction worse as a whole. Part of the problem is the, segmentation of people into extremist groups. And I don't mean everyone. I think the majority of people don't. But I think that social media and social interaction being majorly online kind of creates these echo chambers where thoughts become broadcasted in a much more amplified version than they would normally be. And that is, kind of segmenting down, or not segmenting, but, rolling a snowball down a hill to where it grows larger and larger over time. And the thoughts that you had previously are now more, extreme and emotionally attached than previously. And I don't think that's bad in every situation, but I think you see it a lot in political extremist groups where, it's good to have people that are on your side and believe what you believe, but I think there needs to be discourse. And I think when the majority of social interaction was in person, that discourse was forced to happen, right? Because you're not going to walk, there's a level of awkwardness if you just left the room and walked down. People do that when they get upset, but it's if you had a disagreement with somebody in person, you're going to talk about it, and there's going to be a higher chance that you come to a, not conclusion, but sort of compromise. There we go. How the fuck did I forget that? Compromise is the name of it. Not a compromise like everything. Some things are, black and white. It's not like there's going to be a gray area in every situation. But when you're able to talk to people in person, you are more likely to actually interact and, hear each other out because you're kind of forced to. Whereas when you're online, you can find groups that you feel like you're in a safe space in, and that's great. And I think that's the positive of social media. The downside is that these algorithms kind of feed you only that and very negative things about the opposite side. And so that causes a very wide ravine of separation between the two people, whether it be through politics, just regular disagreements or anything. And then people get more aggravated around the opinions that they hold. And that's how you have the majority of the Senate and the House today only siding with their party. And there's a million other reasons and corruption behind that. I hate, most political representatives as a whole. I think they don't really represent the people. They represent themselves and care about themselves. It's a lot of greed and shit, and I hate that. But that's another topic for later in the video. The next problem that goes alongside social isolation is screen time. I think a large portion of our lives, not socially, is just spent online, but just the part of your life is spent online consuming content rather than having lived experiences. I feel like a lot of people live vicariously through other influencers, and it makes you, it's again like fast food. It's like, it's nice to see that shit, but you're not actually experiencing it. You're watching another person experience it. It's a secondhand experience. It's not a firsthand experience. And so that limits people's actual, I guess, grasp of reality and limits people's, I guess, need or want to actually experience and live new things, which causes even more separation if you want to go into that. But, I mean, I'm not saying this of just like, oh, I don't apply to this. I mean, the majority of my day and probably your day for whoever's watching this is online looking at a screen, whether it be for work, for school, for leisure, whatever. I stream fucking 5 hours a day. I'm looking at a screen. I'm looking at a screen 2 hours before. I'm looking at a screen playing video games and doing other work 3 hours after. So it's like the majority of the time you're awake, you're staring at technology rather than actually living in the world. And I think staring at technology is living in the world, but it's like a limited version of such. And so I guess part of what I'm advocating for is like going and doing shit. Going and doing stuff that's fun. Even if it doesn't, I'm not saying it needs to cost money, right? But like, go do stuff, right? It's like most people just sit inside and like, that's how they hang out. I mean, the amount of times it's like, I still love doing like gaming days, but the amount of times where it's like, a Saturday night and I have time to hang out. And instead of doing that, I'm just like on a video game, playing video games with my friends. It's still fun, but it's like, you got to have a mixture of like actually living. Next is lack of education. I think because of all of these other things we've talked about previously, as well as the advancement of AI, I think people are more and more dumb and dull than they've ever been. I think education is no longer serving its actual purpose in teaching people. And I think it still does serve the purpose of preparing people for future jobs, but it's not giving people the critical thinking and I guess just wide general education that it used to. Because if people don't have an interest in something, they, instead of being forced to actually have to learn it to pass class and graduate, they just cheat on it with ChatGPT, Google everything, or fucking just tune it out, right? It's like now people only take interest in things that they have interest in rather than learning shit that they might not really care about, but serves them an actual purpose. People don't know how to fucking read anymore. People can't read anymore. That's bad. That's really bad. And when I say can't read, I mean a level of illiteracy that is that of like a third grader. Not that they can't read a stop sign or, they're scrolling on their phone. They're able to read comments and all this other shit. But it's like kids today and people today have reading levels far below what par is for their grade, right? Like people are stupid now. And it's like, oh my God, this is a problem. Like the future generations of people that are like Gen Alpha kids can't fucking read. And it's like, that's true of like a large portion of like American adults now, but it's like that percentage of people that have like reading levels of that of a 9-year-old is like increasing more and more to where like I'm worried of like how the fuck, like what college students are going to look like 20 years from now. Like, are they actually going to be trying or are they going to be cheating on everything? And I think like what teachers say specifically through what I've like looked into online is that the gap, not just like we're going to get into wealth inequality gap soon. I think that's a problem. But the gap of intelligence between students has risen more and more and more, right? So say you have 20 kids in a class and it's 2008. I was 6 years old and this is a class, it's like first graders or something. 10 of them are going to be middle of the road, and 5 of them are going to be struggling, and 5 of them are going to be extremely exceeding. Now, it's like 5 of them are well above the rest. There's like 5 in the middle, and then 10 rock fucking bottom in performance, right? And it's not because they're incapable. It's because they don't do anything. The parents don't teach them shit outside of school. They're not fucking trying in school, and they don't care because they're fucking iPad kids. Then that translates into, teenage adulthood, and they just don't give a fuck, right? I think that falls on a lot of things. I think it's part of the problem with education and how, like, public education is now, but I also think it's on the parents. I mean, like, I don't know if anybody else relates to this, but when it was the summer and I was a kid, my mom made me do schoolwork and packets that she had gotten online before I could have fun. So, like, even though it was summertime, I still was doing math and reading and shit. And, like, I hated it. But it made everything in my life during the school years of my life so much easier. So much easier. I flew by in math, and this was like early shit. So then when you get into high school, you're at a better starting point. And I was still lazy. I would procrastinate. But then once you stop procrastinating, you just get it, right? And so you're at a better launching point than these other kids that are starting high school with like a 5th grade reading level than actually having the reading level of a 14-year-old that should, be able to understand Lord of the Rings rather than reading Diary of a fucking Wimpy Kid. You're not in 1st grade. It's like, oh my God, that's a problem. And I wonder what it's going to look like 20 years from now when, some of these Gen Alpha kids that are like 4 years old right now are adults. I think there's going to be people that are, really intelligent and using the advancements of technology and education to aid them in a way that fosters wisdom, knowledge, and success. And then there's going to be people that are literally rock bottom and like don't do anything. Like, that's a worry, which leads me into wealth inequality, which is another problem where I think those gaps with intelligence are going to expand, and the gap of wealth inequality is going to expand even more. You see it now where like CEOs of companies make 2,000 to 3,000 times what the average worker makes in their, company, maybe even more. Whereas like in the 70s, it was like 100, 200, which is still very large, but it's like, it was more of a reasonable gap of like a CEO versus now where like there's guys that are making $200 million a year as one man in a company where the average worker is making $40K. It's like fucking horrid. The top 1% of Americans hold like over half of the wealth. Let me actually look that up. The top 1% of Americans in the United States hold 30.5% of the country's wealth, which is like staggering. Like 1% of people hold a third of the wealth. Like, yes, you're going to assume that the top 1% is going to hold, a large portion of wealth. In any economy, the top 1% are always going to be doing better than, the bottom 1%. I'm not sitting here saying it should be like a 1-to-1 ratio, right? I'm not advocating for just like straight up raw, like Marxist communism where everybody's equal, or at least the way that people see that. I could get into Karl Marx another day, but I'm not saying that. I'm more so just saying like, if that's the case now, and then the 0.1% are even holding, larger amounts of that 30.5% share, my God, what is the average person going to be living like, I guess 20 years from now? The next thing, AI, which we were just talking about ChatGPT, but I more so mean the advancement of like OpenAI and all of these intelligent AIs that are going to be taking over people's jobs. And I think there's 2 roads from the Bart's point of view that go down, and I'm not an expert by any means, so take everything that I say with a grain of salt. Maybe actually 3 roads. Number 1, AI fails to succeed, and we have a, similar like housing market collapse economy where all of these AI stocks and tech brands that are fully inflated right now in the bubble collapse, right? If they don't succeed in, advancing society and making everything easier, and I guess paying out to the investors in like the sense of like what all this buildup is for, then I think these stocks collapse and we have like, a recession / depression of sorts. Secondly, AI succeeds in advancing, and I don't think it's going to be like the end of the world. We did watch a few videos on stream, if you had watched my reacts to them, of like how AI is going to take over the world and fucking blow everybody up. Could that happen? Yes. Will it happen? I don't know. I don't think that's my worry right now. I think that would be for like future generation type shit, which is what we're talking about. But I more so mean what I'm talking about right now is like our lifetime. I think like 30 years from now, say AI continues to advance in the way that it is, it's going to continue to do better at jobs than people can, and computers will do better at people's jobs than people can. And I think many jobs are going to be taken over, in which case we're going to have a situation where a lot of false jobs either need to be created or monotonous work, rather. Like in New Jersey, we have gas attendants. They're unneeded. Do I like having people pump my own gas? Yeah, sure. It's a useless fucking job. I'm not dissing you if you're a gas attendant, but it's unneeded work. I understand it might be cold outside. A lot of people in New Jersey don't know how to pump their own gas. It's the easiest fucking thing ever. I think anybody is able to do it. I don't think it's needed work. I think it provides good jobs to people, so I don't have a problem with it, right? I think it's nice to have somebody pump your own gas, and I think it's nice to give jobs to people that need that money, right? I think there's going to be more shit like that, where you're going to have receptionists and people, not receptionists in the sense of like, you know, typing shit and they're actually like doing work. That might be replaced with AI. But I do think having a human receptionist is always nice, and I think people will like that. So I don't think that's going to be something that's taken over. I more so mean like a monotonous work of like having a doorman, just like a guy that greets you, having a greeting man, having just like stupid shit like that, where it's like, we're just going to need to create jobs for people to have so they don't sit at home. Secondly, the other problem that might incur is that they don't do that. And then we go down a route of having UBI. And I like the idea of UBI. UBI is universal basic income. I think it's good to motivate people to continue to work and kind of solve the problem of welfare, where poorer people are getting money from the government, but once they start making a certain amount of money, that welfare is pooled, and now they have taxable income, and so they're actually worse off. So it demotivates their, want to work. UBI is just basically everybody getting a certain amount of money per year, and then that, helps you live off that if you don't have work, but you're also able to make more on top of that without having that UBI taken away. Now, the way that it could be used poorly in AI, in like a very dystopian way, is there is no work. You can't get a job because you don't have the education needed to get a job that AI doesn't take over, right? So all the work that you could have done no longer exists, and the work that you do want, you can't get. So the government does UBI and they give you money and you live off of that, but you never have a job. And so then you would have like a large portion of Americans being like very low income, poor, not working, and then having like the exact, like there would be like no, it would be like fully, like already people talk about how the middle class doesn't exist anymore. But it would be like, say, this would be like 100 years from now if this somehow actually happened. But say like the majority of people couldn't work, right? Because of AI. You have UBI, they get money, they can't get a job, everybody else can, and they're profiting off of the money that these people are getting given from the government. So it's just constantly funneling back to the rich people, where these poor people aren't working. They're living, just within what their means allow them to with the income that they're given. They can't get work, and then all of the money they spend just goes to the rich people. Those people evade taxes in some way, and then it's just like, will that happen? I don't think so. I think the government would have to step in because that would be like full-on dystopia, and I think the government would collapse in some way because you can't tax the money that you're giving them, and if the majority of people aren't working, then where is the government getting its funding from? But that would be scary. Like imagine like 30 to 40% of people not having work and just getting like paid to exist. Birth rates would plummet, which they already are, right? If you don't know, the U.S.'s birth rate, I think, is 1.62 births per woman. That's not like a disaster, but it's bad, right? You need a birth rate around 2.1 because a man and woman create kids. You want to have 2 kids per person to just maintain a population, right? People always talk about overpopulation. The world's going to be overpopulated. The world population is going to throttle around like 10 billion tops, 12 billion tops, right? It's not going to just constantly exceed, right? Because economically, when societies advance, their birth rate's lower. And then when there's societal struggle, birth rate also lowers and all this other shit. So like you can see all these first world countries right now with like plummeting birth rates. And especially like a lot of Asian countries like Japan and China have like birth rate problems, North Korea, but that's also a dictatorship. So that's its own fucking problem. But when you have a birth rate under, the reason it's 2.1 as well is because you need the 0.1 to account for the amount of people that won't have kids before they die. whether it be from just death in general or just not wanting to have kids. So to just maintain a current population, like say the population's 100 million, right now in the US it's like 300 something million, but say the population's 100 million, you need your birth rate to be 2.1 to just maintain that level, right? If it goes over 2.1, your population will go up. If it's below, it'll go down. The reason our population is still growing is because we have immigration and an increasing life expectancy. And the reason birth rate the birth rate lowering worries me is because with a constantly expanding life expectancy, people living longer, and those older populations being larger than younger populations, you kind of have an upside down pyramid where all of these young people that are being born are trying to support a growing older population. And that's why like Social Security is going to fucking disappear. All this other shit's going to disappear because it's kind of like a fucking Ponzi scheme where they take your money and keep it and then give it to somebody else, and they just keep doing that. But they're not getting enough money from other people, and they're getting money from 10 people and they have to give it to 100 instead of getting money from 100 people and giving it to 10. So like there's just like a lower and lower amount that's being able to be given out to other people. So that's its own problem. And you see that today with like Japan, for example, where their average age of the people within their country is getting older and older, and they have less and less people that are able to support those old people. And you need that. So that's why you see older people, continuing to work past like the average like perceivable retirement age of like, 60 or 65. Like you see people working into their fucking 70s or even their 80s if they're somehow healthy enough to be able to do that and they're not dead yet. That's scary. I think that would get even worse with like the advancement of AI because birth rates would go down even more. But I think birth rates being low is a problem within itself, regardless of the whole AI conversation. Going back to like wealth inequality, I think part of the problem with like US society today is it's really hard to like escape the wealth class that you're born into if you're not already mega rich, right? It's like the rich get richer. Everybody already knows that. But like say you're born middle class or below, it's really hard to escape that. And even if you do, you usually like bump up like lower class to lower middle or like middle to middle high versus like going from lower to high. There are people that escape that. I'm one of them because I got lucky in a job market that pays an absurd amount for success, right? And that's why a lot of people want to be influencers. Side conversation. A lot of people want these jobs that are like get rich quick or like, make money in a way that you're not able to in the regular job market. Like you see a lot of people want to be entrepreneurs today more than previously. You see a lot of people want to start their own businesses and do small business work and do all this other shit. And a lot of it is passion-based stuff, but it's also like the recognition, subconscious or conscious, that like, hey, if I get a 9 to 5, I'm probably not going to be able to get out of the financial situation that I'm in now. And that's like scary, right? Obviously there are 9 to 5s and like different like hourly based jobs that are not in that conversation. Like if you go to school for 12 years and become a fucking brain surgeon, like you're going to make a good salary, but you're not even going to be making that salary till you're in your 30s. So that's its own thing. But outside of that, it's also just a worry for the average person on like what they're going to do to better themselves fiscally versus their parents, right? Because I guess the idea of the American dream is making more than your parents did. And that was true all the way up until like the 70s. And then that's kind of been decreasing more and more, or like stagnating, where like if your parents make 35K, you're probably going to make 35K. You might make 50, but that's not really going to get you out of this income class differential, as well as the fact that housing, prices are higher than ever. Cars cost more than ever. Like that's going to constantly be an issue that's growing. And with the increasing prices of things, people's income does not match that. So more and more people look for like, I don't want to say get rich quick schemes, because like being an influencer isn't a get rich quick scheme, but like odd jobs and like work that enables them to make way more than they would if they were just, climbing a corporate ladder. Like one of the biggest things that I heard that I loved was like, to succeed in a capitalist world, you can't climb the ladder, you need to own the ladder. And I think a lot of people are recognizing that in Gen Z. And a lot of people are succeeding to own that ladder. And, you know, they're being good to their employees and the small business they own. They're making decent money and they're able to give that to the people that work below them. And I think we need to see more of that, right? You see that a lot of people like TikTok Shop, they actually own like family run, like minority businesses where, you know, they started out low income and now they're actually able to make a name for themselves in some way, even if it's in their local city or town, and they're able to make money and, you know, disperse that back to the community. And that's what you need, because the trickle down effect doesn't fucking work, right? Giving more and more money to CEOs is not going to give more and more money to the people below him. If you give a tax break to a guy making $100 million a year, he's not going to disperse that to the fucking 10,000 workers that he has below him. He's just going to fucking keep that shit and go buy another fucking private island in the Maldives, you know, or Maldives. Like, that's what's going to fucking happen. I think my want in that sense is like, I don't think it's bad if CEOs make good money. It's just the amount of money that they make is absurd. Like, you should at least be giving your employees raises to match inflation at the bare minimum. Bare minimum, you know? Like, the amount of people that work at a job and they get a raise, but that raise is a fraction, like say inflation is like 3% a year, you're getting a raise that's 1.5% of your salary. Like, you're not able to keep up with the amount that you're losing off of how much your money's devalued. Like, if you make $50K a year in 2020 and then by 2022 you make $52K a year, you're still down. You know, your money's worth less. You're making more monetarily on paper, but in actual value, you're making less. So it's like people are just getting fucked. And that's going to continue to happen, and nobody gives a fuck. Also, side conversation again, the one thing I want to get rid of it on both sides is fucking gerrymandering, dude. Our whole political... No, I'm not even going to get into this rant. This is a rant for another day. Our whole political system is so fucked, and I think the amount of people that, like, feed into the idea that, like, oh, democracy is great. I agree with democracy as a whole, but we don't live in a genuine democracy. Like, all these state lines and county lines are all fudged in a way that fucks you or another party. Sometimes it aids you and your party, sometimes it doesn't. But it's like, you don't actually have the representation that you think you have most of the time. And the people that you're voting to represent you are representing their party, not themselves, right? Like, I want to vote for a motherfucker. I don't want to vote for his fucking party. You know, I don't want to vote for a group. I want to vote for a person. And nobody does that anymore. It's like all these people just feel like shills for like this big group that is like behind the scenes, just like pulling the narrative to like whatever way they want it to be, versus like, hey, this person is like somebody that actually wants to cause change. And like, I'm going to have the take that's probably going to piss people off. But I don't really care. Maybe not, because if you're watching this video, you might, and you're this far in, you probably agree with me. But like, I think like a lot of the stuff Mamdani wants, the now mayor of New York, is great, right? Like, I think he feels like a guy. He feels like a person. And like, yes, that was part of the marketing he had for his campaign. Do more of that. Do more of that, right? Like, that's what like presidential people should be doing, right? Is like making... Like, I don't want to vote for a guy that feels like a fucking robot, right? Or like a dude that's just so unfucking relatable, you know? Like, part of Obama's campaign that like really resonated with people was like him going to these like middle of nowhere towns and being like, hey, this is what I'm standing for. Like, vote for me. I'm going to do this. Whether or not he actually like paid out on a lot of the shit he promised to those people, I don't know. I wasn't there. But like, that's the stuff that succeeds. And I mean, I don't want to give him credit at all, but like, Trump did do that with a lot of people, and that did get him a lot of votes from like middle of nowhere fucking people. Probably would have voted for him anyway. But like, I want to vote for a guy. You know, I want to vote for a guy. I feel like, am I making sense? Like, I feel like when I'm voting, I'm not voting for somebody that's actually going to try and make change. It's like, they want to do change. And then even if they do, like, here's the problem with presidents in general. Like, even if they do want to make change and they have the right, like, motivation, checks and balances, really good, right? You need that so you don't have a dictator. But the people in the House and in the Senate, the majority of them also aren't voting for what they believe. They're voting for, like, what's going to secure them the spot again, because they're fucking grifters. They're small-time scammers. Actually, big time because they're in the fucking government. They're scammers that want to reassure their position, so they're not going to vote with what they actually believe or what they think is best for their community. They're going to vote for what assures their reelection and what is the least controversial for what's going to fuck them over. And that's another problem with gerrymandering and what's going to fuck society even more, is say you have a state like Texas. And I mean, other states are doing this democratically as well. So I understand I'm liberal. I'm not trying to be biased here. I'm just using Texas as an example because it's what's been in the news most recently. In Texas, gerrymandering makes it so a large portion of Republicans are always going to be the ones that win, right? Even if, you know, say 50% or like 48% of people are Democrats, the votes, how they pan out in counties and how they rig the lines on maps, it's always going to be like 80, like 70% of the time. I'm just using random numbers here, right? So from the point of view of a Republican politician, your worry in opponents is no longer the other side, you know? And I don't like the two-party system either, but this is a problem within itself. If you're a Republican politician in Texas, your worry for getting reelected is no longer the guy that disagrees with you. It's the dude in your own damn party. And so to differentiate between the both of you, you don't want to piss people off. You want to do like the most fucking stale shit possible. You don't want to do anything that might cause change, that might upset people. So you're always just going to vote in a way that like fucking is just like tight to the chest. You're fucking nervous. It's like they're shaking in their boots. They're like, I need to get reelected. I need to get because they don't actually fucking do anything. They just fucking sit there and ride it out, get the money. Insider trading too. Problem. You see it now with like prediction markets too. Motherfuckers are betting on shit that like only government officials would know. And now they're finally getting cracked down on it. Oh my God. Sorry. I'm just going on a full fucking side tangent. Jesus Christ. I don't think society's cooked. Okay. I'm going to say this. I don't think society's cooked. I just think these are problems that need to be solved. And obviously, even if you went back 50 years, there's a million other problems that need to be solved. You go 50 years in the future, there's going to be a million problems that need to be solved. It's just like, this shit is like, it pisses me off because everybody knows, but like, you don't do anything about it because it's like, the fucked part is like, hey, this is the game. You either play it or you're out. Like, that's how it feels, you know? Like, the way that the system's set up, it's like, you're fucked unless you lean into it. And so everybody goes, damn, this sucks. And then they still just lean into it because they know that that's how they succeed. Because changing the system is so much harder than just fucking being a part of it. And so both sides, I'm not saying it's just Republicans, both sides do this, right? And that's what's fucked. Oh, I don't know, man. I don't know any of the solutions for these problems. I have hope still in some way. I know I said this was going to be a pessimistic video, and it definitely is. But I don't think, like, the world's going to crash and burn. But I think, like, it's getting to a point where, like, it's going to become worrisome. Like, the amount of power really, really wealthy people are going to have. I mean, Elon Musk is almost a net worth trillionaire at the time of this recording. And obviously that's in, like, unrealized gains and, like, holdings in certain things. It's not just, like, raw money. But, I mean, dude, like, even unrealized gains and, like, that amount of, I guess, like, net worth and holdings is still just crazy amounts of power. I mean, you literally... You could, at that level, you just don't even need to pay taxes. You could just take out debt constantly with banks that are going to give you such a low interest rate that you never even pay back the interest or the debt because they know when you die that your unrealized gains will reset in the stock market. You won't have to pay, you know, capital gains on it because you're dead, and that's a thing for some fucking reason. And then when you die, you just pay off the loan to the bank, and the bank makes money, but you never even had to lose money while you were alive. Like, that's how it is. Like, say I have $100 million in a bank, or not in a bank, in stocks, and I have a bunch of unrealized gains. I have $30 million in unrealized gains. I don't want to take that out because I need to pay taxes on it. I don't want to take any of the money out because I need to pay taxes on it. And I don't want to lose any of that money. I want that money to keep making money. So I go to a bank and I go, I want to buy a house for $10 million. They give me a house, or they give me a loan for $10 million. They give me an absurdly low interest rate, knowing that I'm never going to pay it back because I'm going to fucking tell them I'm never going to pay it back. They're going to see my assets and they're going to see that I have the amount of money as collateral. So they know they're going to get their money at some point. And I'm going to go, hey, I'm going to take this money out. Maybe I do pay the interest, depends on the individual. But I could probably negotiate a deal to where I get that $10 million and I don't pay them back until I die. When I die, that $30 million in unrealized gains resets. It's gone. Poof, out of nowhere, disappears. That money gets transferred to your kids. Your kids pay off that debt that you had to the bank, and then they just do the same thing over and over again. But that $100 million you once had is now way more, right? Because you lived 30 years more at an annual rate of like 8% interest. So now you have fucking, I don't know, $200 million. But that reset. So now they just have $200 million that they could just use, right? Obviously, there still is death tax and other shit, but it's crazy, bro. The amount of financial, finagling, is that even a word that you could do? Finagling. Obtained by devious means. Yeah, finagling. The act of using deceit, cleverness, or indirect, underhanded methods to obtain something or achieve a goal. Dude, it's fucking nuts. But it's like, the system's fucked in that way. But it's like, bro, motherfuckers play that system. Like, if you ever, because people will complain about it until they get that wealth, and then they're still just going to do the same fucking thing. Because, like, if you didn't, you're a dumbass, you know? So it's like you're going to be the one guy with the pitchfork being like, I'm not going to do it. Everybody else is. So then, like, how do you fucking get rid of that? That's just like a small problem I'm talking about, but it's like, fuck, that's terrible. That's terrible. That means you just always keep your money in investments and you never, like, I pay more taxes than guys with fucking 1,000x my worth. What? I think I'm going to round this rant off. I think this has been a long rant. I have hope for the future. What they're going to do, how's it going to go? I don't know. But I do believe that humans, it'll get bad enough that people go, we need to fix this. Or we're all fucked. And then I think people will do something. I think people will do something. I think somebody will be able to change it. Now, when that's going to happen, I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I think there will be agreement. At some point, I think things will get so fucked that both sides will agree. And they'll have, in some way. And I have hope for that. Will it happen? I have no idea. But yeah. Anyways, let me know what you want me to talk about next. Bye.